top stories. U.S.-based health agency lists St. Kitts and Nevis among countries with very low risk of contracted COVID-19. Jamaica's Prime Minister issues a strong warning to cabinet members, and UK-EU tensions mount ahead of fresh Brexit talks. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, September 8, 2020. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Nationally, the United States-based Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has listed the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis among countries with a very low risk of contracting COVID-19 in its latest risk assessment level for COVID-19 that was updated on September 4, 2020. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, is America's leading public health agency. It uses travel health notices to advise travelers and other audiences about health threats around the world. St. Kitts and Nevis was listed among some 25 other countries on the CDC's No Travel Health Notice. COVID-19 risk is very low. The CDC bases its COVID-19 travel health notice risk levels on two sets of data: virus transmission rates at the destination, which is the primary criteria, and healthcare capacity and public health infrastructure at the destination. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris, while speaking on a recent edition of Leadership Matters, the virtual series, stated that the low-risk rating placed on St. Kitts and Nevis comes as a result of the country's management of the pandemic. The Prime Minister, however, continues to urge citizens and residents to comply with the non-pharmaceutical measures outlined by the World Health Organization, or WHO, and health professionals that have helped in containing the spread of the deadly virus. In all the news, for the first time in St. Kitts and Nevis, the Prime Minister's lecture series will be hosted virtually tomorrow, Wednesday. The lecture will be delivered virtually from the Royal St. Kitts Hotel this year in light of the social distancing protocols in place to protect from the spread of the novel coronavirus. Young mechanical engineer Mr. Mark Pennyfeather will be delivering the featured address at Wednesday's event. ZIZ will be providing live coverage of the lecture series on TV Channel 5 and all of ZIZ's social media platforms. It begins at 7 p.m. The theme for this year's 37th anniversary of independence is Resilience, Innovation and Security for Independence 2020. And as we wrap up local news, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, William Hodge, has commended teachers for stepping up and improving themselves to adapt to the new requirements of teaching during the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier this year, schools were closed as part of regulations to restrict the spread of the disease, and teaching was done remotely using the internet. During a ceremony on Monday to launch the academic year, Mr. Hodge singled out teacher J.C. Summersall for spearheading the training of teachers in the necessary technological tools. Mr. Hodge went on to commend other school champions who are teachers who have broadened their skill sets and gone on to teach other teachers to use technology to deliver lessons. Mr. Hodge said the champions will receive a tangible reward. On the regional scene, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday laid down the ground rules for members of his cabinet, warning that ministers who run afoul of the law while executing their duties will find themselves in hot water. Holness, who himself was sworn in last evening following his party's historic win at the polls last Thursday, earning him a second consecutive term in office, was addressing the audience at King's House in St. Andrew, where 4 of his ministers were also sworn into office. The group comprised the doctors Horace Chan, Christopher Tufton, and Nigel Clark, who will retain the national security, health and wellness, and finance and the public service portfolios respectively, and Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, who will continue as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. The four were sworn in as a matter of priority, Holness said, as the country continues to battle the novel coronavirus pandemic. The Prime Minister said, quote, "They must exercise good judgment. Oftentimes, the drive to get things done comes at a trade-off with judgment. We can have no such trade-off in this administration, which is why we stress competence," end quote. The warning mirrors his 2016 message to then-appointed cabinet ministers, in which he insisted that he would apply a zero-tolerance approach to corruption among members of his administration. Still on the regional scene, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is attempting to avoid a major outbreak of dengue fever on the island. The dengue virus is spread by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. As of September 2nd, there were 184 laboratory-confirmed cases of dengue. Epidemiologist Tamara Bob said on August 25th, St. Vincent and the Grenadines had 74 recorded cases, which shows a significant increase in the number of confirmed laboratory cases. She noted that the majority of dengue cases have been mild, with only 2 persons recorded with the severe form of the virus, dengue hemorrhagic fever. No deaths have been recorded so far for the year. She said efforts must now be made to ensure dengue does not spiral out of control in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially during this time of COVID-19. We move now to news on the international scene. Brexit trade talks have plunged into crisis on the eve of a penultimate round of negotiations in London after the United Kingdom warned the European Union it could effectively override the divorce deal it signed unless the bloc agrees to a free trade deal by October 15th. Al Jazeera's Nadim Baba reports. Donald Trump is being accused of playing politics by suggesting a coronavirus vaccine might be ready by next month, just ahead of the presidential election. His rival, Joe Biden, says science should dictate when a vaccine is made available. Al Jazeera's Rosalind Jordan reports on that story.
Fast forward to 2020, where President Trump convened what he called a press conference at the White House. In reality, the second campaign event here in as many weeks. Trump said his administration will be the one to end the COVID-19 pandemic, not that of a potential President Joe Biden.
This could have taken 2 or 3 years, and instead it's going to be done in a very short period of time. Could even have it during the month of October.
Trump's comments came after Biden, campaigning in Pennsylvania, accused him of letting politics, not science, guide efforts to develop a COVID-19 vaccine.
One of the problems is the way he's playing with politics. He said so many things that aren't true. I'm worried if we do have a really good vaccine, people are going to be reluctant to take it. And so he's undermining public confidence.
For Biden and Trump's running mates, Labor Day campaigning was more traditional. Both Mike Pence and Kamala Harris reaching out to blue-collar voters in Wisconsin. In La Crosse, Pence talked up Trump's trade policies as good for workers and attacked Harris for voting against them. Meantime, Harris was across the state in Milwaukee, where she met with the family of Jacob Blake, a black man shot and paralyzed by a white police officer. Blake is the latest symbol of troubled race relations in the U.S. during Trump's tenure.
They're an incredible family, and what they've endured, and they just do it with such dignity and grace, and they're carrying the weight of a lot of voices on their shoulders.
With 56 days until Election Day, Joe Biden is polling ahead of Donald Trump, anywhere from 4 to 11 points. But there's also a U.S. political tradition known as the October surprise. That's a major event that could persuade voters to choose one candidate over the other based on how he responds to a major crisis in real time. Trump is suggesting that could come in the form of a coronavirus vaccine. But his opponent argues that the search for a cure should not be the tool of political expediency. Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows partly cloudy skies. A gentle breeze of 8 miles per hour is blowing from the east to northeast. Today's temperature will peak at 27 degrees Celsius. That's 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Expect partly cloudy skies with a 60% or moderate chance of showers, mainly after midnight. Sunset today will be at 6:19 p.m. and the sun is expected to rise tomorrow at 5:58 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.